Over it. Let's get into like the paradox of certainty principle and everything. Why doubt is a sign of wisdom. This comes out in Psychology Today, and yeah, they're more reliable than people make them out to be. Overconfidence fuels ignorance and misinformation. Doubt reflects wisdom and encourages growth. True expertise includes recognizing one's limits and embracing uncertainty deepens understanding. Bertrand Russell's timeless observation that the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people are so full of doubt. Resonates as profoundly today as it did when it was first written. In an era marked by the social media echo chambers, polarized opinions, and relentless pursuit of certainty, Russell's insight it serves as a call to reevaluate how we approach knowledge, understanding, and the complexity of life. The seductive nature of certainty. Certainty feels good. It offers a clarity in a chaotic world, a sense of control when life feels overwhelming. This is why the most confident voices often rise to the top, regardless of their accuracy or expertise. So, what we're seeing here on this platform with him is that he makes a lot of bold takes on things, and despite the fact that he is deeply incompetent and acts as if his opinions are more valid than everybody else's, he thinks he knows better than the rest of us. I would posit, a hypothesis about perhaps he is an anime fan. Maybe he has watched so much of it that at this point his sentiments about everything are that, essentially nothing is good enough because he's become jaded from watching so much of it that it's clouded his perspective, that he can't help but instinctively compare everything he watches to, to things that he's seen before. It all comes up in the context of everything else he's ever experienced as a fan of the medium, to the point in which his takes are no longer objective because they're shaded by a sense of having watched so much that one's perspective has become jaded and thus not valid any longer. As a result, you're no longer a credible or reliable person as far as rating things are concerned, because you've watched so much that you can't help but instinctively compare what you're watching to something else, which doesn't make your perspective accurate. It just makes it jaded and warped for it. From political debates to viral social media posts, the loudest voices are often the ones that dominate, not because they're right, but because they're unshakably certain of their stance. However, as Russell suggests, this unwavering certainty is often a hallmark of ignorance or fanaticism. When someone clings tightly to their beliefs, they leave little room for alternative perspectives, critical thinking, or the nuance that defines complex issues. And I would say that anime is a complex issue. Certainty in this sense becomes a barrier to growth. On the other hand, doubt is often dismissed as weakness or indecision in a culture that glorifies confidence. But in reality, doubt is a sign of intellectual humility. It reflects an understanding that the world is complex, that answers are rarely simple, and that our knowledge is inherently limited. The wisest people are those who are not those who claim to have all the answers, but those who are willing to ask questions about themselves, their beliefs, and the world around them. Doubt encourages curiosity, fosters open-mindedness, and makes space for learning. It is not a flaw, but a strength. The psychological bias for overconfidence. Psychology, Russell's insight aligns with what researchers call the Dunning-Kruger effect. The cognitive bias describes the phenomenon in which people with low ability or knowledge in a given area often overestimate their competence, while those with greater expertise are more likely to underestimate theirs. This occurs because true knowledge illuminates not only what we know, but the vastness of what we don't. Interestingly, this dynamic is at play in both individual and societal context. The rise of misinformation and conspiracy theories is often fueled by individuals who lack expertise but exude confidence. Meanwhile, experts who understand the complexity of their fields may hesitate to assert themselves, wary of oversimplifying the truth or overstating their conclusions. How doubt can change the world. If more people embrace doubt, the world might look very different. Imagine political leaders who openly admitted the limits of their understanding, or public figures who prioritize questions over declarations. Imagine conversations in which opposing views were met with curiosity rather than defensiveness. Of course, doubt can be uncomfortable. It forces us to confront uncertainty, in which the human brain instinctively resists. But it's only stepping into this discomfort that we can move forward to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world, moving towards intellectual humility. So how do we cultivate doubt without becoming paralyzed by it? The answer lies in the intellectual humility, the balance between confidence and curiosity. Intellectual humility doesn't mean abandoning all beliefs. It means upholding those beliefs lightly, knowing that they are subject to change as new information arises. Here are a few strategies for fostering intellectual humility in life. Ask questions, approach conversations with a genuine desire to understand, rather than a need to convince or win. Seek out contradictory will, challenge your beliefs by engaging with perspectives that differ from your own. Practice reflective thinking. Take time to reflect on what you know and how you know it, and what might be missing. Celebrate uncertainty. Embrace the fact that not knowing is an opportunity for growth and not a sign of failure. Conclusion. Bertrand Russell's words remind us that wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to question them. In a world that often rewards certainty, choosing doubt can feel counterintuitive, but it's precisely this willingness to question, to reflect, to remain open that paves the way for progress. So the next time you find yourself doubting, take it as a sign that you're on the right track. Doubt, after all, is not the enemy of knowledge. It's the seed from which it grows. So there you have it. It is the fact that this man speaks with such certainty about these enemies that makes me very much so doubtful of his intelligence. Doubtful that what he has truly embraced is actually critical thinking, instead of just contrarianism, being a contrarian brat.